I used to volunteer to do detention time with Steve because I thought it was fun. So I am like the complete opposite.
Cozy up to the discipline officer, so when you do something wrong, he won't.
I've never done it.
Right. Okay.
If I mess up,
And
what if you mess up?
I'm gonna mess up for sure.
No,
I'm gonna mess up.
guys.
It's just a shambles. So you're good to go. Party time.
That's half my life. So you can now work out what my age is.
Hello and welcome back to Madhai's 30 Years of Legacy. I'm your host Mac and I'm thrilled to have you join us for another special episode celebrating the people and stories that make Madhai extraordinary. Today we're talking to two people who've come full circle. They started here as students and have returned to Madhai as teachers. Let's give a warm welcome to our grade 4 teacher assistant and our media coordinator, Ms. Andreea and Mr. Anastasis. Thank you both for being here. Thank you. Let's start with some introductions. Can you tell us about the year when you just started studying here?
Try your part.
Ladies first.
Thank you very much. I joined as a student here back in grade 3 in 2009, and I stayed all the way up until 2019 when I graduated year 6.
I started in 2004, but in grade 6, so you beat me by 3 years. Stayed until year 6 in 2011 when I graduated.
Okay, and what about the year when you started working here?
I started in, I think it was, I have it written down. So in 2018, I'd finished with uni and I started working as first of all, an assistant to the science department, funny enough. And then I taught for a little bit. And then after that, I started doing the social media of the school. A bit hybrid in the beginning, teaching and doing social media, and then full social media coordinator.
Okay, so let's follow up on these two questions. How did the school change for you from being a student to working here?
Man, it was very different. Very different. I think the easiest way to describe it would be that the school was younger. So because the school is a lot younger, it would be smaller and more tight-knit and crazier because the school is still figuring out like how to do different things. Whereas now the school is a lot more like sophisticated, a lot more sophisticated than what it used to be. I mean, just the events is way crazier. We have events like every week in the school seemingly, whereas before it was like, oh yeah, twice or 3 times a year you would have an event. So yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah, I would say the absolute same thing. I mean, a lot of the classes have grown and expanded, and also the buildings have changed. The grades 1, 2, and 3 used to be in another building, so now it's more like of a cohesive system, and you can see everyone and what everyone is doing.
All the breaks are separated and stuff. I was like,
we have 2 breaks instead of 3.
Introduced that, I was like, wow, that's wild.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been here that long. So, what was the reason for you to come back to Madhai in the first place?
So, that was a very funny story for me, all to do with the little parking lot, funnily enough. So, I've always wanted to get a teaching degree down the line, and that was always the plan. And even back when I was a student, I used to volunteer for all of the different events, whether it was handing out water for the sports day or, helping Mr. Steve with the cooking club that he used to do. You didn't know that? He used to do that?
No, I did not know that.
But then my university experience was fully during lockdown. So once I graduated, I came back home just for the summer, once everything finally opened back up. And I went to Lidl, met my English teacher there. She said, hey, there's quite an urgent opening. Would you be able to fill in for a month? So I said, of course, I would love to. And after that month finished, they offered me an extended contract, and it was the easiest yes that I ever said, really.
I mean, mine was it was similar in the sense that it was kind of out of nowhere, because I didn't think of being a teacher my whole life. But basically, after I'd finished studying, there was an opportunity that the science department had a new role where they had an assistant for the science department that didn't exist before. And because I knew the teachers, and, you know, Miss Skula has been around since the beginning of the school, basically. Yeah, it was really cool. I was interested in science. I obviously had a very good relationship with the school. Started working as teaching assistant. And so then when they offered me teaching position, it was just a natural flow. And eventually it was funny because I told Ellen and Yanni that I wasn't interested in teaching anymore. And I told them, you know, I'm thinking of going in a different direction and going to more media. And they said, well, we don't have somebody in charge of our media. Do you want to just stay and do it here? And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty great.
Well, that's a very lucky opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. How does it feel to work here rather than being a student? Is it surreal, or is it like feels like natural, you know?
For me, it is the most surreal experience. I mean, there are so many, obviously, facets of it that are mind-blowing, but I think the main one is when I first joined, there were students whom I remember, you know, their parents bringing them after preschool, you know, and now they're in high school and they're all taller than me. And I'm like, one of my classmates, his little sister used to be in preschool back when we were all throughout, you know, high school. And now she's asking me for essay feedback and she's in high school. And I'm like, so it's this very, you know, nostalgic feeling mixed in with how are you so tall, you know? But yes, it's like very interesting, you know, going to all of the events and being invited to in events and watching you on stage or watching you parade for all of the events. And it's like, this is what we would have looked like. And it's a very new experience watching it from the other point of view.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at it with like some new eyes or something, I guess. Yeah.
It's also really weird working with the teachers, because I remember one of the biggest, not difficulties, but one of the weirdest things that I had to change was when I first started, I was calling all the members of staff like sir and miss and all this kind of thing.
I can't stop.
And they were all getting really angry because they're like, you're my coworker now. You don't call me sir and miss. You have to call me, you know, Mihaly or Kulla or what, you know. And it's so weird because you have to start forcing yourself mentally to say, oh, good morning, Kulla, and not like, and you're like, feel wrong. But eventually you start needing stuff from them. So it goes from being like really shy to like, hey, Kulla, can you like seriously? No, Kulla's great, by the way. It's just a random name.
Yeah.
But
Are you sure?
yes, anything you see with Miss Kulla and how like incredible she is as a teacher, it's the same thing as a coworker. She's just like running events and doing stuff. So nothing changes.
Do you see any of your younger self in the students you teach now?
Do I see my younger self in the students I teach now? I am getting them to read my favorite books. So I didn't, but I am shaping them. I made them all read Percy Jackson and Harry Potter and a lot of the books that I used to really enjoy reading. And it's worked so well with so many of them. They're like 13 books into the series. And
13 books?
Yes.
Which series is that?
Percy Jackson.
Do you ever have moments where you remember sitting in the same classroom as a student?
Yeah, I mean, the classrooms haven't changed, especially with when I was doing science assistant stuff, because I'd be sitting in the back of the classroom while the teacher was teaching, and I'd, you know, be sorting out something in the science lab. And there'd be weird moments when they'd be teaching a lesson that I remember having, and so you'd be like, whoa, this is really trippy, you know?
Yeah, I bet. Maybe remembering some sessions as well.
Maybe. No comment on that question. No comment.
What is the best part about your job and working at MedTech?
I think the best part about my job is I really enjoy seeing the other side of things. So, when you remember, like with the discussion, like seeing how things are as a student, seeing the other side, like the preparation and the work that the admin puts in and putting together events, working with different members of staff and even calling people outside of the school to say, hey, listen, we want this like huge banner to go in front of the school. People drive past and they just see this, shiny new banner and it's like, oh, that's new. But it's seeing the process that goes in, talking with Ms. Antonios for the design and Ms. Elena for like, what kind of thing do we want to promote and all this kind of thing. So yeah, I quite like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I've always really enjoyed being involved with the creation of everything, like Anastasis said, and that's why I also really enjoy being part of the media team now with Anastasis, because being behind the scenes and creating the newsletter that I then speak to the parents and they're so excited to see their kids, it's my favorite part.
And just when you think someone doesn't read it, somebody calls in and says, oh, by the way, there's a mistake. And you're like, oh, people are reading it. Wow, amazing.
I thought it was just my mom, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess for you it's like about helping the school grow first and stuff. Yeah, I guess that does feel nice. So, what is your favorite moment in math, both from your time as a student and from your time as a teacher?
I have a couple, both of them from the time I was a student. Obviously, everybody likes their graduation, so that's obvious. One of the things that, when I read this question, the first thing that came to my head was, I don't think you have the knowledge competition anymore, right? So I used to love the knowledge competitions, and especially when my year one, obviously it was the best. But it was a lot of fun. It was like a game show. So you'd have classes of students, so like year one would be against year three, and year five against year six and stuff, and you'd have random knowledge questions that you'd have to answer, and whoever got the most points won in the end.
So it's like a quiz kind of?
Yeah, like a quiz show, exactly. It was, yeah,
Spent
students
the
against
whole
students.
half a day in the theater taking turns, and it was a full game show.
Yeah.
That unlocked such a memory for me. I completely forgot we used to do those.
Yeah, it was great.
Those were
And in the beginning, it was year 1 to 6, so it was really unfair to the lower years because they'd obviously compete against year 5 and 6. It's like, what chance? Eventually, we split it, but yeah, it was unfair. And also, we were the first year to have how for Harry's Day, we all get together and we get T-shirts and we do the run. So that actually started from when we did a breast cancer awareness day and we wore pink. So everybody, again, would buy T-shirts and stuff. And my year started that from year 5. We just thought, this would be really cool. And we did it in general for breast cancer awareness. And so now every year when we do Harry's Day, it's like remembering, like, oh, my year kind of started that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
For me, it would have to be the last year, the absolute chaos that happens in year 6, when you're running around to study for, exams that will shape the rest of your future, but then also doing events for not only your classmates and your friends to enjoy, but also the rest of the school to enjoy. And I was part of the committee. I had, it's very high hopes for my exams, and then it's all of that combined, and you're doing the events, you're holding the flags, you're doing the shows, you're doing, everything, and it's this, and it comes at the same time with the knowledge that it's the last time you will ever do it in that way,
I was gonna say not really the last time since we're here, but
well.
You don't know at the time.
But we don't get to do it anymore, as I just get to watch them now.
What kind of trouble did you get into as a student? Don't worry, we won't tell everyone.
No, I mean, I used to volunteer to do detention time with Steve because I thought it was fun. So I am like the complete opposite.
Cozy up to the discipline officer, so when you do something wrong, he won't.
I've never done it.
Right, okay.
You voluntarily went into the detention.
It was the cooking class.
Oh, okay. Then
But everyone else would have like the people that were genuinely in detention were, not allowed to have any fun in there, and I was just cooking with the kids. So I've never. I tripped up my friend once in grade 4, but that was the only detention.
But you never did anything wrong.
We're still friends.
I remember after starting in grade 6, I think I have a memory that it was in the first week, but it's probably not because, you know, the way your memory works. So what we did was, I don't remember how this started, but we decided as the boys in grade 6 that we were going to throw, you know how there's the trees with the little oranges on the, like by the bathrooms? Yeah. So we decided we would throw the oranges at the girls, right? And it was really important to throw the oranges at the girls. Now, I don't really know why it started, but I know we got in trouble. And Miss Maria, because Miss Maria was still grade 6 teacher then, decided to let us know, not only were we getting in trouble for throwing oranges, I think we got reports and stuff for that, but we had to know that the nuns collect the oranges and they make jam that they then give to homeless and poor people in the community to make us feel extra bad, which we deserve, but still. Yeah.
Is it true? Or
Yeah, that's a true story.
Wow.
If you ask Miss Maria, I'm sure she would remember.
I'm sure you would remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but maybe we shouldn't have thrown, you know, the oranges that the nuns use for the poor and homeless. That feels pretty bad.
As we celebrate 30 years of Madhai, what are your hopes for the next 30 years?
So for the future, I really hope it keeps growing in impact. I know we already mentioned this once, but the school does so many more events than we ever did. And I think it's grown incredibly in impact in the way the students, you know, create and organize themselves. And I think it's incredible the opportunities that they have now. And I just hope that keeps growing and expanding in the future as well.
And if you could say something to your younger selves when you used to study here, what would you say?
I would tell my younger self that not to get so stressed about the results because you never know where you're going to go in life. For example, I studied biology and I was really worried about my exam results, and I didn't study for certain things because I was stressed to the point where I was like, you know what, I give up. So you have to work hard, but you never know which direction life is going to go. I mean, now I'm a social media coordinator, so obviously my biology degree isn't being used at the moment, but it might be used in the future. Who knows?
Thank you so much for sharing your unique perspective as both former students and current teacher. Your stories are a perfect example of how Madhai continues to inspire and shape lives. To our listeners, thank you for tuning into another episode of Madhai 30 Years of Legacy. We'll be back soon with more amazing stories and voices from our community. Until next time, I'm Meg, and this is Madhai 30 Years of Legacy. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.